lay it out a little bit, because this came out of a murder investigation, okay, and we probably better be kind of careful on who we talk about, because again, I'm always conscious of not giving. And for the record, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know who this is. I don't want to know who this is. But it's fascinating to me that what he's saying. Let me just read this from Follow the Blood Trail, okay?
Okay.
Listen to this. Under new heading, Follow the Blood Trail. At first, he noted the DNA strands he was examining seemed to be wound more tightly than normal. You see, there are normally 10 rungs per complete twist of the double helix strand in normal human DNA. In his analysis of our subject's DNA taken from his blood samples, he's found intermittent sections which appeared to be wound more tightly with only 9 rungs per complete twist, 9 being an unusual and noteworthy number, always turning and returning to itself. I thought to myself, that doesn't seem to be that unusual. Everybody I know seems like they're wound too tight. By the way, that's maybe where that came from. Simultaneously observed and documented that he at first believed to be the foretold third strand of the subject's DNA. There are a lot of people writing about the third strand of the DNA, but listen to this. Now, these are guys that know what they're doing. Upon closer analysis, he came to an entirely different and unexpected conclusion. Our subject had been lied to. It wasn't a third strand at all. It was a semi-transparent, elongated, serpentine-like parasite of infinitesimally small proportion. He gazed at it and studied it and shocked disbelief and asked to himself, is this the pathetic little blood-sucking worm, the tyrannical destroyer of so many lives and worlds? My investigator friend continued, I remembered the false Cheshire grin surrounding a mouthful of fake pearly whites staring me down from his star chamber seat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these are really prominent people in the world. I won't name them, but I know one of these people. I don't know him personally, but I know who he is. And waiting for my answer from behind the concealing screen, which provides me only partial anonymity, you see, he thought he caught me in a lie with what I had told his house investigator, but his investigator's authorizations and clearances were not the same as the senator's. As I replied, as you know, Senator, the lie is different at every level, and so it was, and so it always shall be. In this life, anyway, from the highest thrones of this world to the tiniest strands of DNA, it's lies, 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 all the way down. Now listen to this. My friend tried and was trying at the time of his death to determine if there was any way to separate the writhing and gripping entanglements of the demon seeds form from the host DNA without destroying the host. He also speculated on possible ways to identify the reptilian hosts who walk amongst us and are living in the grip of the reptilian seed's alien possession. It was here I began my work, picking up where my friend had too abruptly left off. Deep in my thoughts, my friend said, I reached into the box of chocolates beside me. Interesting thing, he noted, they put some chocolate-covered jellies with red-colored sprinkles on top into the box of chocolates, but I reached instead for the 3 pastel-colored hard-shell candy at the center of the box. I did remember clearly that as I closed my eyes, just as I began to feel dizzy, and only a moment before I felt myself begin to spin over the edge and down in the rabbit's hole. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, he had a box of chocolates. Someone put something in him in those chocolates, and he was into what's called the rabbit hole. And as I was told to pray before going into the rabbit's hole, those of you in that part of the world will understand what I'm saying. They said, you better pray, Steve, because once you look into the abyss stares back at you. I won't go into any more detail on my personal experience, but I will say this. All I can say is there are no words I possess, no emotions that can express, no thought patterns I can convey to the absolute horror that I beheld. There's just no words. I can't even say it. And I was told that would be the case. And I was told, look, this is I believe it's word for word. We are some of the toughest, most dangerous men in the world. We do things that most people can't even believe and would never understand. That's why our existence is pretty much, we're gone. There's no records of us. But he did say this. He said, grown men who are the toughest men in the world have literally had their hearts fail after embracing this stuff. Grown men who are young enough to basically be some of the premier fighters have turned gray in an instant. Others have absolutely gone mad. So that we're talking about
hardcore battle trained ultra black special operations guys, okay? So, Doug, what I'm saying in all this, now we're going to get into the DNA. The idea is that Satan initially tried to use fallen angels both before the flood and after the flood. The point that you can look into history, you'll always see the aliens. You can go to the Bayeux Tapestry in the Battle of Hastings, I believe 1066, and see literally a spaceship in one of the greatest tapestries that's ever been woven. And you can see the cave drawings in Altamira. You can see the cave petroglyphs in Lascaux, France. You can go to the desert Southwest. You can go to any place in the world, and you will see alien-sized giants with even spaceship in the background. And some of these things predate 6,000 years. Well, how can you have something that predates 6,000 years? Let me make it clear. Adam and Eve were created 6,000 years ago, but prior to Adam and Eve's creation, there was a whole world. It was called the pre-Adamic earth. There are people who dispute that, but the point being is in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Those words, tohu and bohu, are without form and void. Those are words only used in judgment. And when God basically blesses the earth and blesses the recreation, he uses a word, replenish. Replenish is a different word than you would use if it's total creation, ex nihilo in Latin, out of nothing. So you go to the book of Isaiah, and the Bible literally says that God originally did not create the earth. That would be in the pre-Adamic earth, tohu and bohu. And guys like Arthur Custance and Derek Prince said, but the earth became void and without form. In other words, it was an act of judgment. You can go to Jeremiah chapter 4, I believe it is, and you can see that there's a flood that wipes out judgment upon the earth before there was any Adam, man, or Adama, man, and before there were any cities. Well, how can you have entities being destroyed by a flood before? So there are really two floods, the pre-Adamic flood and then the post-Adamic flood. And now we've got a situation. By the way, if you haven't seen my photo of the day on stevequayle.com, I'd encourage you to go see it. Probably one of the most intense rainbows I've ever photographed. But I put a caption, Doug, up on the photo of the day saying that with all the chemtrail spraying and geoengineering, they're literally changing the waveforms and the transforms of visible light. And one of the biggest stories this week is now they're going to, you're going to love this, insert DNA or transform the DNA of soldiers so they can sense the infrared spectrum and see in the infrared spectrum, just like the snakes do, just like the serpents do, and just like Tom Horn was breaking the news. I don't think people grasp the gravity of what Tom Horn said, that when he said 24 of the Vatican's leading academics and also astronomers and some of their brightest people basically said, guess what? The saviors coming back are lizard-like. It's just like the old Series V or the new Series V, as in Victory. But this time it's going to be very, very deadly.